Gray Zone Warfare Winds of War is here, and we are going to dive into whether or not I think it's worth your time. Now, I have not been very nice to Gray Zone Warfare in the past, and for good reason, to be honest. It's not really been that pleasant of an experience. Winds of War is here, the new update. The game is still in pre-alpha though, it hasn't even officially entered an alpha state, but we're gonna go through what I feel like the game succeeded at, what I feel like it might still be lacking, and again, whether or not I think it's worth playing for you at this point in time. Alright, so we're going to jump straight into it. We are not going to waste any time. Now, I will always give credit where credit is due, even for games that I would otherwise talk a lot of trash about, Gray Zone Warfare having been one of those games. But the performance, above all else, the performance of Gray Zone Warfare has come a long way. I used to not really be able to play the game at all, whether it was online or offline. When the game first released, way back, it was like opening up a Minecraft server. Everything took so long to load in. It was so blocky, pixelated, smudged. It was terrible. It was awful. I maybe got 80 frames offline. Long story short, the performance is leaps and bounds above where it has been in the past. Not only can I play the game now relatively smoothly with only minor stutters between new points on the map, but I can also stream the game with relatively no problems at all. Again, just a few stutters here and there as I transition across the map. So the game, I'm using DLSS, you might be using FSR, I don't know what is better, but the game, generally speaking, runs great. If I'm not streaming, then the game is maxing out frames, really no problem. The only reason I don't max out frames while I'm streaming is because I'm streaming to 4 different platforms at once, so my GPU is already under a pretty heavy load. But the map, you know, it looks great. You know, if you could push it as far as you want to push it, the performance has come a long way. The helicopter issues seem to have been dealt with or rectified at least a little bit. They are significantly better than they were. Anyone who's played Gray Zone Warfare at all knows how annoying it was to constantly be met with the negative, all birds are in the air notification anytime that you opened up the map and tried to select a landing zone. Now, I always thought that it would make a little bit more sense to just have the helicopters spawn. It's not like procedurally, I guess, but rather than just have the helicopters in the sky at all times, eating up memory, flying back and forth, just never available at all, just have them spawn as people request them. Now, I haven't looked at the patch notes, so I don't know exactly what they did to address the helicopter issue, but I'm just speaking from my playtime. The helicopter issue was really not a problem at all. It was a non-issue, actually. Anytime I called in a helicopter, anytime I selected a new zone, a new LZ, anywhere I wanted to go, there was a helicopter ready. It was on its way. It was there within, 30 seconds or so. So the helicopter issue is much, much better than it was in the past. Now, the character controller, the character movement does feel a little bit better. I never really liked the way the character movement or controller felt in this game. It was always, it felt weird. It feels a lot better. It's not perfect. It's not great. It's not the most fluid thing in the world, but the character movement overall is definitely improved. It's a little bit more fluid. One of my biggest gripes about it early on was that you could only run in a straight line. And what I mean by that is you could only ever run in one direction at a time. So if I was running north, I could run north. And then as soon as I maybe tried to turn my character a little bit as I ran, the character would stop running. It was super frustrating. I'm not talking about free looking your head side to side. I'm talking about if you were to go a little bit left, go a little bit right while running, your character would just stop moving. Now it seems like you can rotate you can kind of move a little bit northeast, southeast, northwest without your character full stopping on their run. So the character controller does feel a little bit smoother. It overall just feels a little bit better while you're navigating. The AI in the game is something that people have always sort of had an opinion about. It's really been mostly a negative opinion. The AI, generally speaking, have really been stupid, for lack of a better word. Not only that, but they were very inconsistent. Some of the AI were just bullet sponges. They would eat 5-10 bullets before they would die. Sometimes they would just shoot you instantaneously like a like a guard or a boss in Tarkov, just boom, one shot, you're dead. Maybe you don't even know where it came from. The AI definitely seem to have been touched quite a lot over the last few updates. They're really not an obstacle at all. The only time I ever felt like AI might be a problem in this game during this update is if I ended up in an area where maybe my back was against the wall and I had positioned myself between 4, 5, 6, or 7 different AI enemies. Otherwise, they're pretty easy to kill. I only had a few that ever ate like 4 or 5 bullets, no armor, straight to the skin without dying. But realistically, AI in this game are not going to be an issue, and they certainly don't kill you instantaneously like they may once have. I also thought that the addition of zones in the game that you can capture, they're just like, what would you call them? Checkpoints or small bases, if you will. Essentially, they're just zones, points of interest around the map that any faction on the map can go to. They can compete for to control that small little area of the map, and the more they control, the more that those areas become available to them for spawning and accessing traders in your inventory, etc., etc. So I thought that that was really neat, and especially when it comes to PvP, there's a zone, a red zone on the map now that actually shows you where contact is taking place. So not only do these new zones of interest that you can fight for to control, kind of like a conquesty type of thing, to give you more access to other parts of the map, which instigates fighting and interaction because the map is huge. We'll get to that in a second. But it also allows you to do things again like access traders and just diversify the flow of the map and give you something else to do besides just tasking. All right, so now we're going to touch on a few things that I really did not like about the game, or that I still think the game needs to improve upon. One of them, and this has been a thing since the beginning, is that there's no like deeper network, you think like a neural network, there's no like deeper network programmed into the game yet where items that are related to each other are accessible through a menu. And what I mean by that is if you ever played Tarkov, you know that you can right click on an item and you can click linked search, or you can click filter by item, and it'll either show you all of that exact item, or it will show you everything that is compatible and related to that item. So if it's a gun, it'll show you grips and barrels and magazines and stocks and sights and on and on and on. Well, Gray Zone Warfare doesn't have that. So your only option, especially since there's no flea market or any type of online marketplace, is to access the traders and then sort of scour through the menus of what they have, and I guess more or less just read the description alongside the name of that item and see if it's compatible with your weapon. It's a little bit cumbersome. It would be great, especially considering that the looting and navigation system of your character is a pretty much 1-for-1 replica. It'd be great to have that, not only to mitigate time and all of this when trying to build a weapon or customize your your helmet or whatever it is, but it's such a big quality of life feature to not have to sit there and read through everything and figure out what it's supposed to belong to, when you could simply have a network in place that syncs and links these things together through something that would show and populate everything that's compatible with this. If I have an M4, this is the suppressor, this is the stock, the optic, etc., etc. Something else I noticed that was a little bit weird, but not game breaking. It certainly wasn't game altering, just a little weird. But during gunfights, there's something, I can't quite pinpoint what it was, but there's something, maybe you guys have come to this, encountered this as well, but there's just like these little glitches, like these little blips, these little slips, especially at close range when your character, it's almost like your character slips and the responsiveness of aiming and shooting just almost isn't there for a second. And another thing that I noticed as well is that during certain movement transitions, especially from sprinting to walking or from standing to crouching, your character will not aim their gun or shoot their gun. You essentially have to stop and then reinitiate either the aim or reinitiate the shooting. That was something that was present in the last update too, that makes quick, fluid engagements in and out of gunfights a little bit cumbersome, because there's just this minor subtle delay. It is what it is. I mean, maybe I'm experiencing that and other people aren't, I don't know. Another thing though, when it comes to the character movement, aiming, walking, the sideways walking, strafing side to side, especially when aiming down sights and leaning, way too slow, man. way too slow. I understand it's a tactical stance. I understand that if you're trying to aim, you may want slower movement speed. This isn't Call of Duty, but the movement speed is way too slow. It doesn't have to be a 1-for-1 regular walking speed or running speed, but speed that up just a little, man. It's way too slow. It takes too long. It's unnecessary for it to be that slow. Bump that up just a little bit. Jumping back to the map that we mentioned earlier. Now, while the performance is great, the map looks great when you can bump it up on higher quality settings. I think the map is a great thing. It's a great idea. It's super cool that the map is so big. It's so wide open. It's so expansive. It's just one giant map. I love that idea. It's really cool. I think the extraction and landing in and out of the map via a helicopter is awesome. But realistically speaking, throughout my time in Gray Zone Warfare, even though it is a beautiful map, there's just not enough going on in the map. It's too much jungle without enough diversification throughout the map to separate areas of it so that it makes it feel like you're traversing through something that you haven't seen before or an area you haven't been to before. All of the little shanty shacks are just kind of the same. The enemies are the same everywhere. Of course, the jungle, it's a jungle. It's pretty much the same over the whole map. So there are plenty of different places to explore, and there are different towns and little things like that and points of interest, but largely it's just all the same. Now, I think that this foundation, the bones of a map like this at scale and with the visual fidelity that it has once performance has been optimized, I think it could be great for an extraction shooter and a battle royale. This is kind of what I hope the next generation of battle royale becomes if it's continued to be developed upon by studios, because it's really dope. But I would like there to be more of a transition to maybe like that jungle urban mixed with just the hardcore jungle, the swamps, the trees, the shanties, because it's such a big, beautiful map, but it's largely all the same. Now, alongside the map sort of lacking any transition and, differentiation, I've also found it to be kind of the same with loot and enemies. Now, there could be places I'm missing, enemies I'm missing, but I haven't really found like a tier of enemies yet or tiers of loot yet. The loot is still really not that varied. I haven't found anything of quote unquote high value in terms of like, oh, this is like a gold or a red item or just like a really high valuable item. If you were playing PvP, then I would imagine that would be one of the only ways that you would leave the game with high value loot, because the enemies don't seem to have any. The buildings that you enter don't seem to have any. I haven't found much in cases and boxes and crates and things like that. So if you're going into this game with a PvE play style, you're probably not going to come out of raids with much. You're probably only going to come out of raids with what the traders reward you for completing the tasks. Now, if you're playing PvP, you obviously have a much higher chance of maybe not only finding loot that I haven't found, but also killing players, not AI, that will give you the loot that you desire. So to wrap it up, guys, again, Gray Zone Warfare is a game that I really haven't had many positive things to say about in the past, and for good reason. I've said that, I'll continue to say it. It's still in a pre-alpha. It's not even in an alpha state. It's pre-alpha. They released the game way too early. They made a lot of money. The game was in shambles. This update, though, it's a good update. I don't think that the game is necessarily bad. I don't think that it is a bad game. Is it worth $20? Sure. I would just say that if you're gonna buy this game and you're gonna play this game, you're gonna have to understand that in comparison to other extraction shooters that are on the market, this game's gonna offer significantly less than those games. There's still so much that needs to be added to this game to make it a little bit more immersive, to make it feel just a little bit better, quality of life improvements, things like that. I think performance is on the right track, but overall, it's got really good bones, and I do think that this update is worthwhile. There's just still not quite enough, at least for me, to play this as like a main game. There's a lot of fun and value to be had if you're playing this as a squad, but I would suggest going into it with the mindset and understanding that even though I hate early access and the whole idea of it, it is an in-development game. game that has a strong foundation. I know the dev team's passionate, but you're really looking at something that's going to take a little bit of time to fully flesh itself out. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys hanging out for the video. Please like the video. It helps a ton, man. And subscribe to the channel. There's no reason not to. It's free. You know the background is dope. You know you love hearing me talk about this kind of thing. Please let me know in the comments below if there's anything I missed, maybe what some of your experiences in Gray Zone Warfare are, what you would like to see, what you don't like, and I'll see you guys online.